Hello, my name is LoG and welcome to part 3 of this minor diminished power-up. If you enjoy this type of instructional material, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below. And now let's get on to the lesson. Okay, continuing into this third part, let's figure out where we left off. So part 2 started with this A-flat minor arpeggio from 5 to 5, down the diminished, and then we went up A-flat dominant, the setup chord for the next section, which looked like that, standard. And that's where we left off. This is going to be the starting note for this part. Now, from this part and pretty much the next part, we are going to be targeting D-flat minor. So we went from A-flat minor for the first parts. Now for this second half, we're going to be D-flat minor. You can kind of think about it as like the 4 chord if you're in the key of A-flat minor. However you want to think about it, doesn't matter too much, other than this is our main minor kind of target chord that we're using right now. So again, same concept though. We're going to be descending, in this case, we'll be descending the D-flat minor arpeggio, 4 notes worth, and then we'll jump into the nearby diminished, which again is still based off of the 7, 2, 4, and flat 6, now of D-flat, because that's the chord that we're setting up with this diminished sound. So let's figure out what our shapes look like. So we ended like this. Right there, and we're coming straight down, descending from root to root, coming down this kind of pretty common shape. That's root, 5th, flat 3rd, root, like that. It's kind of like you're playing this chord, just descending. Just like that. The fingering I'm using is ring finger, middle, pointer, ring. You could probably use pinky as well, if that makes sense. Now, the next sound is going to be, again, diminished, ascending, 4 notes worth, and we're going to simply go back a fret from the root of this D-flat, because we're going to start this on the 7, one of the starting locations for diminished sound for any minor chord. Even though we're on D-flat, still works exactly the same, the 7 of D-flat. Now, you can play it right here, but I'm actually choosing to jump down here and play it. It's the same notes as C. And I'm doing that to set me up for the next part because everything else is kind of down here. So fingering wise, even though you do have to kind of make a little bit of a jump, it does make sense for the rest of this part. So that's going to look like this. And you're jumping right back there to the 5th fret pointer finger. So down this arpeggio shape, by the way. Oh, by the way, I meant I'm using, for my technique, I'm using, again, just like those upstrokes that are moving through everything. So down stroke to start it, then up, 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 1 upstroke to handle all 3 of those strings. Then I'm jumping back here, hitting that C right there. That will begin the diminished arpeggio. Looks like this. Right, working up the diminished in this case, whereas in the first parts we were going down diminished, now we're going up. And that would be like the natural 7, the 2, the 4, and the flat 6 of D-flats. Again, same notes that you'll always play of diminished. And for this, technically, I'm doing, kind of following what I've been doing for the other ones. That's a downstroke, hammer-on, middle finger, ring finger, right? Then I move back a fret here, and I continue down the D-flat, whereas up here, I played root to root, right? Then the diminished. Now I'm playing 5th to 5th. This is 5th, flat 3, root, 5th. So I'm coming down another little chord shape, kind of the top half of this standard minor shape that everyone uses. And I'm playing it like that. Pointer, middle, pinky, rings. That'll set me up for the next part. And again, technically what I'm doing, literally the same thing I did up top, right? Downstroke, then 1 upstroke for the rest of the notes. Same thing here. Downstroke, 1 upstroke for the rest of the notes. Don't have to do it like that. You can do 1 upstroke the entire time if you want. For me personally, I think the downstroke to start it off feels a little bit better. Just like that. So let me play that one more time. Right, so down standard D-flat minor from root to root. There's our root. Jump back here to play the natural 7 and then start the diminished. Then go back a fret. Now you're on the 5th, 5 to 5 on D-flat minor. Just like that. Pretty simple. Again, just like the other videos, if you want to experiment, come up with a different fingering that makes more sense to you, by all means do that. But this is what I'm choosing to do, so you can follow me or do your own thing. Now, once we're here, this is the final diminished arpeggio. This is the 5th of D-flat minor. And all we're going to do is go back a whole step to the 4. Again, another starting location for this diminished sound, the setup sound into minor. And we do diminished right there. So again, this is going to be the 4, hammer on, right, to the flat 6, natural 7, and then 2. of that diminished, and then we simply end, for this part at least, on this note right there, and that's the D flats flat 3. And technically what I'm doing for this, very similar to what I've done for all the other parts, simply picking this note of the diminished, hammering on, and then middle finger, ring finger. Right, pretty much the same thing as I did up top, if you remember that one. It's pretty much the exact same shape, except for a tiny little fingering variation because of the tuning issue of the guitar, but that's pretty much it. So let me play all of that one more time. This is kind of technically the I don't want to say the easiest one, but the most consistent, because you're really doing the same exact 2 picking configurations in a row, right? We've got this one, just downstroke followed by upstrokes, and the next time we hit D flat, it's the same thing, downstroke followed by upstrokes, and then the diminished shapes also look the same. The first diminished shape right here, that's pick, hammer on, middle finger, ring. We come down, and then again, pick, hammer on, middle finger, ring. So the picking configuration is consistent depending on what you're doing. And then, by the way, we're ending by hitting that flat 3 of D flat, like I was saying, and I'm just doing that with the downstroke, and that will set up the next part, which is a very similar part to what we just did right here, descending, moving through the arpeggios. Again, really straightforward. Like I said in the past, this power conceptually is very simple. Technically, of course, it can be kind of tricky to move through the parts, but what's happening is pretty straightforward. So let me play that one more time, a little slower. You can see everything. Again, this is after that A flat dominant 7th that's setting up the D flat, the 5 of, right? That's what we ended with in the last part. Now we're starting this part 3. It looks like this, slowly. Next one, jumping down here, up diminished. Going back a fret, down the chord. Back a whole step, up diminished. And then up a fret to end there. So. There you go. So this video is going to have 2 tracks. The first one is going to run from 60 to 130, and that will be just this part. And then we'll run all 3 parts from 60 to 140, and that sounds like this. Just like that. So it'll be pretty fun once you get it down. So hopefully, all this stuff makes sense. Again, just like the others, figure out a comfortable fingering, solidify how you want to actually play all these shapes, and then come back to this part, and we'll start those tracks. All right, that does it for part 3 of this minor diminished power-up. As usual, if you enjoy this type of instructional material, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below, and I'll see you all in part 4.